Okay, excellent. Good morning, everyone. Today we have a special roundtable that's convening for the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. We are holding this public meeting virtually, so I will do a roll call of my fellow commissioners. Good morning, Commissioner O'Brien.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioner Hill.
Good morning, I'm here.
Thank you, and Commissioner Hill will be attending without his video on today. Thank you so much, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Skinner, good morning.
Good morning.
And Commissioner Maynard.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Okay, we'll get started. Today is our public meeting number 437. As I said, we have a special roundtable that addresses the marketing affiliates in our regulation 205 CMR 25601, subsection 3, the sports wagering advertising. Just to set the stage briefly, I did circulate to my fellow commissioners 3 documents yesterday in addition to the written comments that we received relevant to this topic. Most recently, I distributed a PowerPoint that was put together, a very high-level PowerPoint. I distributed it in a letter from Mr. Kevin Garnett for Gaming Associates. I know that he's represented with today, the Gaming Associates represented by Mr. Messler, who I think will be joining us. And another document that I distributed was the New Jersey directive on a similar issue that I thought might be helpful for fellow commissioners. I'm going to introduce the multiple participants. Before I do so, I wish to thank each of you for agreeing to participate in this roundtable rather at short notice. We learned that our regulation might be raising issues that we weren't aware of, and whenever we learn that there might be either unexpected consequences or at least questions, we want to hear from the stakeholders who can best explain it to us. At a later time, we'll look at the regulations and decide if we want to make any changes. And today we're really going to be enjoying listening to you and explaining the issues. Because we have so many participants, I've already mentioned this, we'll have to navigate it a little bit carefully. And I will give everyone permission to lean in, interrupt, use the icon, give us notice that you wish to contribute. And as I indicated in the invite, we wish to keep this conversational in nature. We have 3 topics of the discussion, 3 prompts that were on the agenda. Before we turn to those, I thought that we would allow folks from the third-party affiliates to set the stage with their high-level PowerPoint. And I think I'm going to turn to Katie McCord in a second after I make the introductions to do that. And I know that we've had a practice run on sharing the documents, so we're in good shape. So as I understand it, maybe I'll ask if you're here, if you don't mind saying present, and then just say your position, because I want to make sure to get the positions well, but I'll introduce all of the expected participants, and that may help me get all of you on the same screen. So from WinBet, we have Jennifer Roberts and Alan Stremmel.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can say your positions. Jennifer, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, and you want to just state your position, please?
Yes, our position is that we would support.
not your position.
Oh, I'm sorry, role. Yes.
That's very good though. I like that. That's leading in, Jennifer. Very.
Thank you for allowing us to attend this. I am the Vice President and General Counsel of WinBet.
Thank you.
And I'm joined with Alan Stremmel.
Good morning, Mr.
Chief
Stremmel.
Marketing Officer. Good morning.
Excellent. Thank you. And from FanDuel, good morning, Mr. Fox.
Good morning. I'm Vice President for Product and New Market Compliance.
Excellent. Thank you. We have from MGM's Sarah Brennan and Jeremy Coleman.
Hi, Jeremy's actually unable to make it. So we have Ria Looney. She's our Chief Compliance Officer on with me. And I'm
Could you
Sarah
say the
Brennan.
name again, please? Sarah,
Rhea.
my apologies.
Well, Ria's on camera. I'll let her introduce herself. But I'm the Senior Director of Compliance, and Jeremy's unable to join us today, so Ria's joining me.
Good morning, Rhea Loney, Chief Compliance Officer of BET MGM.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, Ria. Then we have from Penn, Good Morning North and North Brownsville, and we have Samantha Haggerty.
Hi, I'll go first, I guess. Hi, I'm Sam Haggerty from Penn. I'm Deputy Chief Compliance Officer and Regulatory Affairs Counsel.
Thank you. And Good Morning North. Are you having trouble navigating that, North? There you go.
Oh, it works now. Thank you. Sorry, I was just having trouble unmuting. But good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning. Nope, this is a good chance for everyone to get their technical situation figured out. DraftKings, good morning. We have Matt Schell. Scalf.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Matt Scalf. I'm Government Affairs Manager with DraftKings.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's important to have a strong voice for responsible gaming in this conversation, and we are very pleased that Rian Burchol has joined us today. Rian has joined a roundtable in the past on responsible gaming. Welcome back.
Good morning, Chairwoman. Thank you for having me.
And you have your own consulting business.
I do, yes. It specializes in problem and responsible gambling policy.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. From GDC America Inc., we have Max Pichel.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. Max Pixel from GDC America.
Let's go. Thank you so much. And Katina Media, we have Michael Daly.
That's correct, Madam Chairman. Michael Daly, Chief Executive Officer of Catena Media.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And from Better Collective USA, Katie McCord.
Hi, guys. I'm Katie McCord from Better Collective. I'm head of legal.
Okay, excellent. And IFRA, Mr. IFRA?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you, Jeff IFRA for IFRA Law, and I'm representing the 3 media groups that you've introduced.
Excellent, thank you. And then we have from Gaming Society, I believe we have 2 representatives, Jamie Messler and Marissa Coleman. Are you here?
Yeah, hi, this is Jamie. Hold on one second. Hi, Jamie Messler, CEO and co-founder of Gaming Society. Marissa is going to try to join in a little bit.
Great. Well, if there's any issue getting on, let us know and we'll figure it out, Jamie. Thank you so much. All right. So that's all I have. And from Nesson, my apologies, I have Matt Bold. Good morning, Matt, and thank you for joining us rather last minute. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for
In
having
your
me.
position?
Chief Operating Officer.
Okay, so we are very appreciative of the numbers who have joined us and your interest today. And so I think, Commissioners, if you think this is a good way to start, we'll go ahead with the high-level PowerPoint. Commissioners, do you have any questions before that? All set? Okay. Thank you, Jeff and Katie.
Thank you.
Want me to share the screen?
You may, yes, please.
Okay, wonderful.
And again, we'll probably let the PowerPoint go through because it'll be hard to see any faces. And then just so save your questions to the conclusion. And also feel free to add into their PowerPoint too. Okay, and Katie, you almost have a full screen.
How's that
there you
look?
go. Good.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners and fellow staff. We super appreciate the timeliness and responsiveness. You've been amazing at working with the industry from the very get-go, and we appreciate the constraints you're under, and that's not always an easy thing to do. Your office staff and all the commissioners have been extremely flexible in pivoting to work with industry, and we super appreciate that. We think that's exactly the right recipe to lead to a successful launch and a successful scale of this new legal opportunity in Massachusetts. I just wanted to give you a quick overview, sorry, of you've already, Madam Chair, introduced the folks on whose names are on the screen. Just wanted to give you a quick overview of the industry and then hand it off to Max and then Katie and Michael, so that can go through this PowerPoint. The affiliate industry, it's kind of hard sometimes to understand what that industry is, but the affiliate industry is essentially when you go onto Google and ask Google to find you a legal sports book in Massachusetts, the types of articles and news articles you're getting from the organic search in Google are going to be articles that are published by the people on the call today. So these three media companies represent about 75% of the media affiliate assets that are out there, which means that Google on a state-by-state basis is being populated with articles, educational material, responsible gaming material, the risks of gaming. These are all things that this industry publishes on a daily basis. Play Massachusetts is an asset that you may already be familiar with. And what these media affiliates are doing is investing money to make sure that when a Massachusetts consumer wants to know where a legal sports book is, he or she can find that sports book quickly. And this is a really key thing, obviously, to grow the business in Massachusetts, because up until now, when someone in Boston or Revere or wherever in Massachusetts put in that inquiry into Google, the result they got was not Play Massachusetts, was not Sports Handle, it was not Fanside or Gaming Society. The result was an offshore book. And the reason why is because illegal, offshore, unregulated books have been operating in the US from outside the US, mainly the Caribbean, for over 20 years. So they have a real head start, and that creates a real problem when you've decided to regulate this industry because consumers rely on Google results. And so the affiliates here are responsible for driving almost 30% of the consumers to legal operated sites. So when you look at a breakdown of an MGM or a DraftKings or a FanDuel, we believe that almost 30% of their consumers are going to have arrived on their sites as a result of the affiliate work and the educational materials and the media assets that these three and others invest in and publish every single day. The common goal is really to protect consumers, generate taxes, and keep out the bad actors. And this is obviously a common goal that I think everyone who's on the call today agrees with. But the common challenge also has to be acknowledged, which is there's an established illegal industry and they have a huge head start on the internet. They lie about being illegal and they're super easy to find on the internet. Now, some of the operators can obviously pay to advertise and they can pay Google to elevate themselves above some of the illegal offshore operators. But a lot of consumers obviously ignore paid ads and look for organic search results because those tend to be more reliable. The Google algorithm will prioritize findings on an organic search based on how Google views the credibility of those sites. And so consumers will go to those sites as well. When you search for the best travel deal, you're going to get hit up by a bunch of people who are paying Google to rank them first. But if you're like me, you probably skip over those results and go to the first organic results because that's who the Google world and the consumers at large have essentially prioritized as the most credible. And the same thing is true here. If the affiliates are not encouraged to stay in Massachusetts and they leave, the result will be that you'll be back to giving Massachusetts consumers organic search results, which drive them offshore, which don't protect them, and obviously don't generate taxes for Massachusetts. So this is in a way already starting to happen because the affiliates on the call today are being discouraged from investing in Massachusetts. Operators like Caesars have told them that they're not going to be paid for the work that they do on any basis. Caesars hasn't offered an alternative basis. They've said there will be no revenue basis, no revenue agreements in Massachusetts, period. We can't afford to eliminate the affiliates who are responsible for driving 30% of these consumers to operators, because those consumers are going to be the ones who are going to be entertained on the various operator sites and generate the taxes that Massachusetts needs and scale the business and take away market share from the offshore industry, which was all part of the goal of legalizing. So what we'd like to see is a more relaxed approach, which is more consistent with the majority of states. There simply is not another state of the size of Massachusetts who is doing what Massachusetts is proposing. There isn't one. All other states have decided to go with CPA and revenue share agreements, which with minor exception of one or two. And in terms of similarly sized states, there isn't a single one who has prohibited it altogether. We'd like to keep Massachusetts in line with what the other states are doing because we think that's truly the recipe for success. And my clients are now going to break that down a little bit more. That was just meant to be a high level. We think that there's an opportunity to license the industry in a similar way that they're licensed in other states. We hope that Massachusetts will do that, and we're here to answer any questions. And without further ado, here's Max.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you for having us and hosting us and taking the time out of your day and your consideration here. I think I speak for Michael, Katie, and I, where we've been doing this for a while and we really understand how monumental of a task it is to regulate sports betting retail, but online sports betting even more so because of how many different players there are in the value chain of sports betting. So today I'm going to set the stage for what affiliate marketing is, how it works in gambling, and Katie and Michael will cover other elements of it. We also want to, Madam Chair, depending on your appetite, we can answer questions throughout or wait till the end, whatever is easiest. I know I have a hard time remembering questions at the end of a presentation, so more than welcome to interject at any time.
So I think that what I'd like is for you kind of to zip through your PowerPoint and then we'll save questions, and then we'll make sure that even the other colleagues that have joined today's roundtable can add in to your presentation, Max and Katie. I think that's the best way because I really do want this to be a conversation more so than a presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I firmly agree. I don't want anyone to feel like they're going through death by PowerPoint here. So we'll do our best to keep it succinct and make sure we're talking about something that's substantial here.
Yeah.
So in terms of affiliate marketing, I think it captures a lot, right? It's a huge term, not only in gambling, but also in other parts of industries, e-commerce, everything. I think for us, we want to set the stage for kind of what the baseline is, how things work, and what it actually is. And I think as we think about affiliate marketing and what it means is people use Google for borderline everything of what they want to search for, learn about, get ideas. And as a result, you're capturing high intent users. And our whole thesis for affiliate marketers like Better Collective, Catena Media, and GDC America are to meet these folks where they are, right? So if someone is searching for where can I get the cheapest flight or what is the best Italian restaurant in Massachusetts, you're able to use Google to help find something that you have clearly stated as your intent through many different ways, mostly through Google searches. So that's really what we want to set the baseline to. And there's a lot of elements that come into that. So we're going to cover all of those over this brief presentation. And for us, that's really what we want to discuss. And one of the biggest pieces of that is when you do a Google search for anything, whether we have an example here for a laptop or looking for a vacuum cleaner or a high yield savings account, whatever the case may be, you're searching for something and there's search results that populate. And all of those search results that populate are generally websites like the websites that the three companies represented here today operate, like Play Massachusetts, Action Network, or Bet Massachusetts. And all of that enables us to be authoritative websites with expert content talking about all of these laptops or specific travel destinations or which airline is best. So we're able to preserve ourselves within Google, and Google rewards us because we are developing and creating content that users who have shown similar intent to want to do those things or buy those goods or services have been able to realize and find successful. And that's generally our thesis of creating websites, generating great content that people find useful, helpful, and we apply all of that to the regulated online gambling industry, not only in the US and all regulated states, but also globally, wherever there is regulated sports betting and online casino. So for us, that's really what we want to discuss, is that this is not unique to online sports betting. This is really about how it applies to online sports betting and how similar it is to something that I Google search stuff all day long about where to go to eat, where to get a train, what airline to fly, all of those things. So for me, it's easy to apply to my own life. And I'm sure everyone on this call can understand the value and utility of Google, specifically when you have a new market launching in Massachusetts with online sports betting. We want to make sure that consumers have what they want when they're searching for the best sports book in Massachusetts or what is the most consumer-friendly sports book in Massachusetts. We're able to walk through a lot of that. And the real purpose of our discussion here today is how affiliates like gambling.com, Better Collective, or Expedia, or Wirecutter, or any affiliate marketing that is WebMD. If you get sick and you want to find out how to get rid of a sore throat, they're going to market to you for potential cough medicine or over-the-counter medication. Similarly, they get compensated as well. And what we want to discuss is how different affiliate marketing is from general advertising, because we're meeting people where they are, right? Someone who has a sore throat, Google searching something for a sore throat, it makes sense to market a particular cough medicine or of some other remedy to them. Similarly, someone searching for sports books, we want to make sure that they find the best sports books, the DraftKings, the FanDuels, the MGMs, the Caesars, not an offshore operator that is not protective of the customer, not regulated by the MGC, and not recognized as a good actor in our industry. And I think that's really what we're going to cover off here today. And Jeff mentioned earlier how large this actually is. If you look at how the search volumes and the search queries on Google of how pervasive and frequent they are, that's why we represent over 30% of new customers to operators collectively amongst the three companies here. And that's something that is very important. So that's where affiliate marketing differs, because we are not mainstream media. We're not targeting folks who are on television or viewed by everyone, by children or people that don't have an appetite for sports betting. And that's also very difficult to police. So for us, we're playing in one very specific lane where we want to target these users and these potential customers for the regulated online sports betting operators that you've licensed and will be licensing. So large takeaway is we're not based on the amount of eyeballs or how many people are watching a game and see your TV commercial, or how many people open your newspaper and see a full page ad for a sports betting operator. The big difference for us is when we try to conceptualize this for folks is that it's proactive, where you're pushing advertising into someone's face through television or radio or another method, versus passive advertising, where people are trying to come to our websites and our assets because we have a review of the best sports book, or what are the odds for the Celtics to win the NBA finals in June. Very specific searches versus just saying, hey, here's sports betting, go do something with it. We're focused on something very, very particular in comparison. And I think that's the unique element of affiliate marketing in sports betting, is because we're just waiting for consumers to come to us. We give them what they need, and there's generally a call to action if they want to take the next step of the intent that they've already shown.
Max,
And-
I'm going to interrupt because
Sure.
I'm cognizant of time. We have a lot of voices that we want to hear from today, and we're already at kind of almost a half an hour. So I don't know if you want to speed through your next several. Again, I am. This is a round table, and so I thought that we would just limit this to being sort of let's set the stage, and then let's move on to our conversation, please.
Certainly.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think most of these elements are very important to say in this stage, because we're operating under the assumption that most folks on this call don't necessarily know what affiliate marketing. So we'll be able to get through this pretty quickly.
Right, and I think that we'll get, that's exactly what we are hoping to hear from
Sure.
you on. So thank you.
Sure. And from our perspective, the way the regs are written right now is they will mostly create a monopoly or a duopoly, where the operators will not spend money with affiliates. And as a result, we will have no incentive or expression to market our services or create content or invest dollars into the market in Massachusetts. And the implication of that is something Katie's going to get into now, specifically about what life looks like without affiliate marketing, and what that looks like, and we'll also cover some responsible gaming pieces as well. So Katie, I'll pass it on over to you.
Great, thanks, Max, and thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners, and I'll try to pick up the pace a little bit. So I think what we first want to talk about is what happens if we eliminate affiliate marketing. I think that we understand the Commission's focus on responsible gaming, and we share the desire and to limit what we're going to call push advertising, whereas marketing affiliates are pull advertising. So this is the dynamic that Max was talking about, sort of proactive versus passive. What marketing affiliates primarily do is focus on pull advertising, so people who already have betting intent. So also what Max and Jeff were speaking about sort of with Google is the Google results that you're seeing are not a coincidence. So if you go to Google and you type in best sporting bets in Massachusetts, then marketing affiliates work very hard to make sure that we appear in the first few searches. And the key thing to remember is that marketing affiliates only promote licensed operators. So if you eliminate affiliate marketing, we believe that we will all lose, the regulated industry will lose, and that the illegal industry will win. Marketing affiliates have many incentives to only promote licensed operators, but the primary one is that we, like the operators, have licensing and registration obligations. So if we were to promote an unlicensed operator, then we would put our own business at risk. Additionally, many users who have betting intent will have trusted affiliate websites that they go to, like Better Flex Action Network, like gambling.com, Bet Massachusetts. And when they're conducting a search, they may go immediately to one of our sites and then see what the licensed operators are. If affiliates are commercially discouraged from participating in a newly regulated market like Massachusetts, consumers with betting intent, when they are conducting their Google searches, with no marketing affiliates to provide a filter, we believe that they'll be directed to offshore books. We also believe that an outcome here will be an increase in untargeted paid advertising. So getting back to the point on sort of the role that marketing affiliates play, marketing affiliates bring in about 30% of new customers. So if you make affiliate marketing commercially unviable by limiting performance marketing, then we believe that push advertisements like mass media will start to increase. We also think that it will produce an uncompetitive environment because operators typically prefer to focus their marketing spend, and I hope that the operators here will speak to this today, but in our experience that they will sort of tend to prioritize marketing spend on performance-based metrics because it allows for efficiency. So, and Jeff can sort of speak to this a little bit, and as he touched in initially, in a state like Connecticut, which limits CPA and rev share, only allowing flat fees, there's a small market with only 3 operators. In Illinois, where rev share is prohibited, some of the operators that BC works with are unable to afford CPAs, and so they can't afford to advertise. So we believe that an unintended consequence will be a consolidation of the market where smaller operators won't be able to invest and larger operators will continue to focus on push advertisements like television. So therefore, we believe that these regulations will result in a dampening of the Massachusetts regulated market. And we're beginning to see some email guidance from Caesars that I'll allow Max to sort of quickly touch on and that Jeff described in the beginning.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. So we received this communication from Caesars last week. Effectively, we digest this as Caesars firmly committing to not using affiliates. And as a result, someone who's searching for the best sports book in Massachusetts may find Caesars, or they may find someone that's offshore, mostly because there will be nothing else for Google to serve on that query. And Google doesn't necessarily care who's regulated and who's not by each state entity. And as a result, the implication is that none of the companies here would invest on the affiliate side for marketing to not only serve as a watchdog for illegal and offshore operators. And this is as a result of currently how the regs are written and their interpretation of them and their appetite to invest in other areas, perhaps mass media or push advertising to market to whomever is available, whether it's TV, radio, print. And the find ultimately this will result in not much protection for the consumer. So you could have someone who doesn't know whether Bet Online or Bet US is regulated, if they're the same thing as FanDuel or MGM or Wynn. It's hard to determine which is which because they're very good at what they do as an offshore operator. And our goal here would be to change Caesar's opinion of wanting to use affiliates, ultimately protecting the operators and the consumers in this case.
So just to quickly sort of summarize my points, and while I, of course, am biased, I believe that affiliate marketing plays a sort of an essential role in the sports wagering ecosystem. And so if you commercially discourage the participation of marketing affiliates in a newly regulated market, we think that there will be unintended consequences that will result in sort of a damping of the market as well as hurt to consumers, resulting in lots more untargeted paid advertisements and more mass media advertisements, result in a thriving illegal market, and then consolidation of the regulated market because affiliates will not be able to provide sort of the essential educational features that our websites offer. So I'm going to just quickly turn this over to Michael Daly, who can talk through some of the educational benefits that marketing affiliates provide.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you all. I'm Michael Daly, Catena Media. What does affiliates have to do with responsible gaming? So, as we've said already, we are part of the ecosystem that help bettors understand what is going on. We're also companies that are all invested in the states we're in. We are from the states. We recognize that there has to be a balance between the industry and the consumer protection. I'm from Massachusetts originally. I have cousins from Plymouth to Newburyport to my sister and my niece who plays hockey live in Framingham. So we respect that there has to be a balance in here between the industry and protecting the consumer. So we go to the next slide. How do we as an affiliate do that? One is education. Affiliate sites explain sports betting concepts before the user goes to an operator so you get an unbiased understanding, ideally, of what is a line, how do bets work. This is especially important in new markets where players are unexposed to these sort of concepts, or they've only seen it from the offshore affiliates or operators who may be using terms like risk-free or open bets and free bets. And those are the terms that good operators and affiliates are not using. We're explaining the risks. We are talking about how do I get my money back out? What kind of bets are allowed in the state so the user doesn't get frustrated? Why can't I bet on this college game? Well, that's because they aren't allowed in this state, and that's how this state has set it up to protect the consumer and protect the industries of the sports. Compare value. It's very hard for you to go to buy an electric bike and go to an electric bike manufacturer's site and say, oh, their reviews all tell me this is the best electric bike. As an affiliate, we serve in the middle ground where we serve to review all the operators, all the features of the products, who has the best this and that, who's changing over time. We give an independent view of that. So that's part of what we are doing on the ability to compare value. What ways can I deposit? How do I withdraw? How long will it take me to withdraw from various sites? What other issues have users had? Understanding the risks. We do talk about it at the education and understanding why and when, how to bet, and that this is an entertainment form. And these are things, again, you should be understanding before you get to the operator site. So if you go into Google and search for us and we're not there, you're either finding an operator or, as the others have said, you might be finding the illegal affiliates and operators who are sending you to out of the country. If you go search for Massachusetts sports betting today, you'll find a number of our sites that are in place and already educating the to-be market. We're not taking money or anything like that at this point, but we're educating. If you go to Texas and do the same search, you're going to find a lot of the offshore guys we are not doing anything actively in Texas really, but they are. That's what they'll be doing in Massachusetts again if we are not in the ecosystem. We also, quite frankly, hold the operators to account. That's part of our reporting. We are reporters. We have 120 some odd reporters at Catena Media across the United States. We'll report on fines and violations and other things that are going on that make the market more aware of how safe is the industry, what are the regulators doing to improve the situation, and just call a spade a spade. So we are part of that ecosystem, both for the positive and the protection of the industry, because none of us want to see this industry fail for tax purposes and for the sake of education, and entertainment. I'll now turn it back.
Thanks, Katie. I'm going to skip over this because we said this already, and I know we've got to get to the roundtable. And let me just introduce our last speaker on our last slide. One of the things we'd like to talk about is diversity in affiliate marketing. And Jamie Messler's on quite early in LA to talk about Gaming Society, which is one of the first women-owned, minority-owned, diverse affiliates. And they're doing some great work and plan on doing some great work in Massachusetts. Jamie?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me. Just quickly, I guess, we are at Gaming Society, a young company, like Jeff said. We're not only am I one of the few female founders and CEOs in this space, but we're also one of the few companies focused on newer bettors and women in particular. There's a large amount of sports fans with an interest in betting who don't know how to bet and are intimidated by it. And we're laser focused on creating an inclusive community with making sports betting more accessible, responsible, and easier to understand. And so as sports betting grows, the need to promote responsible betting is more important than ever. And we're really focused on that. We have a partnership with the American Gaming Association for their Bet Responsibly campaign. But consumers go to companies like ours for information, for education, and having diverse voices in the industry, I think, is really important. And if companies like ours can't get affiliate revenue, we're not going to be able to invest in Massachusetts the way that we plan and provide this inclusive educational content that we provide. My co-founder won a championship in Massachusetts, and we have a tremendous amount planned in Massachusetts, but it really would be a shame. I mean, this is why we built our company, is to create inclusivity. Everything in the industry looks the same, and it's important to us to create diverse voices, education, and accessibility. And it would be a shame if we couldn't get a license in Massachusetts to invest in the state.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. That concludes this overview, and we look forward to the roundtable discussion and appreciate your patience with us.
Well, thank you. That was a very, very helpful overview. And to Jamie, I am here with you in the early hour in Los Angeles. Postscript, my son and daughter-in-law did have a baby on Thursday, so we are here to visit shortly after this roundtable, our second grandson. So Jamie and I are here early. Commissioners, questions at this point, and before we even ask questions, maybe I should just invite the other participants. Would you like to add any clarifier to really the setting of the stage? Our first prompt is to describe the industry, and I thank Max for giving us that primer on what a third-party affiliate is, because he's quite right. Many of us are really not familiar with the industry, and that's why it's so important to have this conversation today. Then we'll get into the more of the nitty-gritty about our regulation and its impact, and then the responsible gaming piece again. But are there any questions or clarifiers that folks from our guests wish to add at this point?
Commissioner,
Mr. Fox?
Yeah. So I just wanted to make one point around the differentiator between what we call CPA or cost per action and rev share agreements. In FanDuel's experience, the CPA agreement, where you're paying per customer acquired, is much more common, at least for us, than rev share agreements. And so the commission may choose to take a look at that and may see the CPA agreements as something of a middle ground between having full rev share agreements where maybe bettors are incentivized to wager more and having no affiliates at all. So just something to think about.
Commissioners, do you have questions on that particular point, just for some further education? Commissioner Brown, it looks like you're leaning in.
So I have a lot of questions, but we only got 2 hours, but there's a couple things I wanted to follow up on. In terms of the CPA and the rev share, can people speak to the percentage of your relationships that are one versus the other right now?
So Mr. Fox, if you have that percentage, that might be helpful.
If you're willing to say that publicly, I appreciate it.
It is almost, but not quite 100% CPA as opposed to rev share.
Okay. And then in terms of the third-party marketers, what's the the majority of your contractual relationships in this industry?
In the United States, Catena Media is about 90% CPA at this point.
GDC America, similar to what Michael expressed, there are some limitations on the operator side that prohibit or inhibit us from doing revenue share. One, just sophisticated backends where they track the user's progress and behavior. Those vary from operator to operator on how sophisticated and detailed that data is for us. So generally, we do operate out of CPA because it's easier for us to track and invoice the operators. So I echo Michael's percentages.
Others who want to weigh in on that?
This is Rialoni, Chief Compliance Officer for BetMGM. I'll add that the majority of our agreements are also CPA.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner O'Brien, did you have another question?
So I guess my follow-up to that is, if there's no change in our regs in terms of share, how does this conversation that we just had change, if at all?
Commissioner O'Brien, I'm sorry, it might be my connectivity. Could you just go over your question again, please? Thank you. It's probably on my end.
Sure. So my question is, since the majority of this seems to be on a CPA model versus a rev share model, and it seems like Illinois is the only one that's barred the rev share, if Massachusetts were to continue to bar the rev share, how are we talking about impact in terms of your involvement in the market?
Go ahead, Mr. Daly.
I'll speak for Catena Media. Catena Media would be in the market as a CPA operator being paid on delivery of a player, an active player, to the operator. So we work on CPA. Rev share allows for the operators and ourselves to potentially look at how do the operators reach profitability and the likes, because they're not paying all up front. But again, CPA, if CPA were allowed in the full aspect that it is in the other states, we would be in Massachusetts full bore.
Gambling, GDC America, similarly, revenue share makes sense when you have a very small brand that's a new entrant to the market that may not have multi-million-dollar budgets to compete with the large duopolies in each state. And so that's where rev share makes sense. But I also echo Michael's point again. If there was the ability to operate on a CPA basis where the affiliate GDC America is compensated for a consumer visiting one of our sites, leaving our sites, going to register and deposit with a regulated operator, we'd be in favor of that. And it would not affect the revenue share because most of our business is a CPA, as you discussed.
Commissioners, other commissioners, Mr. Iffer, were you leaning in? Did you want to add?
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that Katie was comfortably answering, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
Okay.
I know that she missed the last 2 rounds of questions.
Okay, Katie.
Hi, I'm trying to sort of limit my speaking because I'm from the legal end. So if there are any commercial questions, I might punt to my chief commercial officer, who's also on the call, Carl.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Carl Pugh, Chief Commercial Officer by the Collective. I think it varies operator to operator on the CPA versus revenue share side. As Max alluded to, some of the operators don't have the budget to pay the upfront costs associated with the CPA. So I think for maybe the lower end of the spectrum on the operator side, rev share is critical to some of the marketing spend with affiliates.
Can I follow up with that? If you could explain the experience of those types of affiliates in other states. Do most other states have an elevated licensure process associated with a rev share? We've seen that as a possible solution. I see Max, maybe you're weighing in.
Yeah, I would defer to Jeff. His firm looks at, knows by heart nearly every regulation in every state for the differences between CPA and rev share, if there is a difference. So I defer to him.
Yes, there is a higher form of licensing in some of the larger states. Madam Chairwoman, you are 100% correct.
So that's what it looks like on New Jersey. Do you have any familiarity with New Jersey? And I love that we have a dog barking. I have one sleeping right next to me here. in our hotels, so we're good with dog barking. Is anyone familiar with the New Jersey model?
Yes, New Jersey does treat revenue share as a form of a supplier. I mean, that term supplier can be used at lower levels in other states, but in New Jersey, they do require what's called a CSIE license, which is one notch higher than their vendor registered vendor application. So you can do CPA through the registered vendor, which is just a 2-page form, requires you to disclose who your partner is. And your partner operator would have to support your application for a vendor for CPA in New Jersey. And then one level higher for revenue share would require further licensing of your executives, financial disclosures, fingerprinting, et cetera. Is that helpful?
That's really helpful. Commissioners, questions on these two sort of levels of licensure and compensation? Just turn to my fellow commissioners first. Anybody want to weigh in at this point? Okay, Max?
Yeah, no question. I was going to add to that the 3 companies represented here from the affiliate side, we've gone through this in 19, 20, 25 states. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but similarly went through the registration process in Massachusetts, have all submitted and found that process simple and easy to get through in comparison to some other states where they're very onerous and misleading around the information that they're requesting. And I think I can speak for Katina and Better Collective. All 3 of us are publicly traded companies. We're used to disclosing every bit of information about our business. So similarly, for any form of licensure or any level of licensure, we'd be more than happy to satisfy any requirement that the MGC would permit us to submit.
I also know that there's been some concerns if there were to be a higher level of licensure in terms of timing. I think another thing that we've all, the 3 affiliates on this call have all sort of already been through the registration process. We'd be happy to sort of bump up to the higher licensing, but I also think that as most affiliates, like, we can lean into the licensings that processes that we've already been through. Many states already regulate us, so it doesn't need to be, the additional higher tier wouldn't necessarily need to be completed before March 10th, which I know is your target date.
Yeah, that would be something we'd have to discuss, really. But I see your point in terms of saying that other jurisdictions have, done the vetting on the higher review.
So Commissioner O'Brien is saying that I think it doesn't necessarily translate that we'll just accept other jurisdictions, but I think, Katie, you're saying that you're in good position to work with us. Is that right? Okay. I'm going to just move on our prompt, but we can continue to have the conversation around the compensation arrangements because I think they'll get more and more nuanced. But some of the comments that came in did make some suggestions around our regulation in particular. We've heard about the implications. We've heard about how it could impact the regulated market, and we understand from that overview that there's an opportunity for offshore affiliates to take advantage of maybe what might be a dearth of regulated marketing. So we're hearing that. Is there anyone who, from the operator's point of view, or anyone else who could elaborate a little bit more on implications of the regulation in terms of any clarifiers for the regulators here in Massachusetts?
Hi, this is Jennifer Roberts from WinBet.
Good to see you, Jennifer. Yeah.
Good to see you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the Commission, thank you for this opportunity. We at WinBet choose both CPA and revenue share options when available with our marketing affiliates because it does provide flexibility in what we can engage with the customers. It does allow for opportunity to be able to evaluate customers before paying out the fees, which I think is helpful instead of a just a click or, a cost for just a visitation to the site or any other kind of model. What this allows us to do is pay upon actually doing an evaluation of the customer, that they go through KYC, that their identification is verified, that they meet the qualifications for setting up a patron account, and that they are actually committed to engaging with WinBet. And so that marketing kind of evaluation of our customers helps us have a better relationship with our affiliates, because we can actually see a return of investment.
Thank you, Jennifer. Other voices on this matter? I'm going to skip
Commissioner.
now. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to, back out for a second, just from an operator's perspective, just to mention that we're obviously competing against illegal operators, both domestic and offshore, who don't have the same requirements we do. And I think when you think about where the United States is in the transition to regulated and legalized sports wagering, to allow affiliate marketing would allow us to compete with those illegal operators, and to deny us the opportunity to use CPA affiliate marketing really gives those illegal operators some additional oxygen, because they can continue to use CPA models and continue to acquire customers. So that's how we're thinking about it and why it would be valuable for us.
So can I follow up on that? One of the other broader questions that I had for the people that have spoken to is, to me, this whole reference to sort of Google algorithms and how they prioritize and how they pull up. It seemed, I'm curious as to what efforts are being made sort of at the federal level by the people on this call and or the licensees in terms of addressing that point. I remember before the Super Bowl seeing a CNN article about how you could bet and what you could bet on. And certain of the props bets were obviously only to offshore illegal because you can't do it legally anywhere in the United States. And so that was appalling to me that you have a major news organization that then is doing that. So I'm curious, what are the efforts just on a broader level? And again, I know we don't have a lot of time. So being done to address it at that level in terms of, not, Mr. Fox, leaving you guys in a position of not having any effort to compete with the illegal market.
So, Mr. Daly or Mr. Fox, either one. I think Mr. Daly may be weighing in first. Well, go ahead.
Sure. So we are definitely active in that. One of the things we do with the E4 Law group is there's a group called IDEA that they founded, which is the lobbyists for the industry of the online space. And so we are actively work through that group to try to get the message across on what kind of impact this is really potentially having or going to have. So I think, we are actively involved in it, but we are small players probably on the grand scheme of things. Max?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we try to do collectively as these three affiliates, it is to compete against the offshore and illegal operators is a form of trench warfare for us. It's every day, every state, every market, every sport. And one of the things that all three companies have found to be successful thus far is to partner with media organizations in each jurisdiction. So in this case, in Massachusetts, Katie's team has teamed up with the Globe and Boston.com. Katina has partnerships there. GDC America has just partnered with Telegram.com. So to Ms. O'Brien's point, where if you are on Telegram or Boston.com and there is an article about a Super Bowl prop that may be obscure or fun to talk about, that they're not quoting offshore odds or pushing people towards offshore, that they're focused on the operators that are offering those wagering markets in that given jurisdiction, in this case, Massachusetts. So for us, we are able to find ways to combat the offshore market by taking up the search real estate in Google, but also tackling just more mass reporting and mass media on the editorial side to make sure that if they are referencing anything about sports betting, it is legal and licensed and regulated and viewed by the MGC.
Commissioner O'Brien, it's a great point. there's a lot of work going on from the trade groups, from the American Gaming Association and IDEA. There have been letters written to law enforcement. There was letters written very recently to the Attorney General of the United States about the offshore industry, about how it's hurting the regulated land-based and retail industry. There hasn't been a lot of response, unfortunately, but there's also been a lot of advocacy done at the state level. It wasn't so long ago that when you read through the newspapers, the odds that were being reported were from, BetUS, BetOnline, and offshore illegal markets. And one of the amazing things that Dave Rebuck had to do as director in New Jersey when the industry first started is write very aggressive letters to local newspapers and tell them that without having any authority over them, telling them that they have to remove those lines and that they can't, report lines from offshore. It's a total, transformative experience we're going through now. So these affiliates are working with newspapers as well, like Max just mentioned, which really helps because newspapers sometimes pick up these stories without even realizing it. And to your point, if you have time to follow Dustin, who's on the phone on Twitter, every single time there is a CNN story or another story around illegal offshore props being advertised by major networks like CNN or Fox, Dustin's all over that on Twitter, and we message the networks directly as well. Sometimes it's the story they like, especially with some of these crazy prop bets. Some of these bets are not legal here. So, how many notes in the Star Spangled Banner, or how long is Rihanna going to present for? Some of these types of event that it's during a game that have no relationship to an athletic contest are not legal in every state. So when a national news organization wants to report on something, they grab stuff like that. We see that a lot in the political bets arena as well, which is also, a totally illegal area. So we are on it. We're a small group. We try to work through both, the major organizations on the land-based side as well as on the digital side. It's a work in progress, and state regulators are also helping. But it's a great question, and I hope that our voices are heard, and a lot of the materials we've been submitting, are taken seriously. But it's something we got to do every day.
I'd like to turn to Mr. Fox because he was going to weigh in earlier, and then if and Commissioner O'Brien said thank you, I think, and then I'd like to turn to Matt Volk, if you from Nesson, if you'd like to weigh in. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I want to make sure we hear from the local voice on that. So, Mr. Fox, did you want to weigh in?
Jeff covered most of what I was going to say, but the only thing I would add is that as one of the larger operators, we're certainly trying to use our business relationships with some of the largest advertising networks and search engines in the country to move them in the right direction on this. But we have an internal task force that we are doing everything we can within our power, and frankly haven't had all that much success yet.
Okay. Mr. Volk?
Yes, thank you. For those who may not be aware, we at Nesson are part of a broader coalition of advertisers and national and local broadcasters, leagues, and the Red Sox and the Celtics. So it is our perspective that the CPA bounty program is an appropriate approach and kind of a standard business practice in sports and the sports betting industry to engage potential participants who have been identified through data as likely consumers. And then that provides them an immediate on-ramp to legally bet. The CPA bounty program helps focus on engaging the right people, such as consumers over 18 and responsible gamers, and creates an inroad for illegal gamblers to legally bet. Given the purposes of legalized sports betting, which is to bring gamblers into the regulated, safe, legal market. We should all want to have ads that are effective. So a CPA bounty program is structured to base ad spending and compensation on whether ads are effective, which we think is and feel strongly is a good thing. The restrictions that the commission has proposed, we believe would have the unintended consequence of resulting in more saturation marketing, the type of environment that many want to avoid. This is because, as others have mentioned, operators and advertisers who do not have the option of using a CPA bounty program, then the advertising shifts to more of a CPM model of mass marketing, which is both less efficient, but also less specific in those digital advertisements that are provided, and at what frequency. So, we believe that, not having a CPA program would then lead to much more of a mass marketing approach.
Commissioners, of course, the idea, we sometimes use the word targeting in a negative connotation, targeting those who are not eligible to wager. In this case, if you remember, we had a lot of information coming in from our applicants on their very tailored approach to marketing. Marketing was a piece of our application process. I'll turn to Commissioner Maynard.
Madam Chair, Matt actually raised a question that I've had. Mr. Fox said something earlier that made me use my Google machine to type in best sports wagering apps Illinois. And all the major players came up. I didn't find anything offshore. So is that the way to explain that this marketing is going on despite the fact that there's no incentive to do so in Illinois? I'm trying to figure out why I would find the accurate results there if their regulations are very similar to what we proposed.
Well, sir, the regulations aren't similar. The regulations permit CPA. And as Michael and Max and Katie said, that's 90% of their business. Corey at FanDuel said that's 100%.
So what states don't? So what states? We had several letters. What state does not allow? You kept saying that similar states to Massachusetts all allow it.
The only state is Connecticut.
Okay.
I don't want to start making fun of Connecticut.
They don't allow either, correct?
Correct.
That's what I was getting at. Okay. So if I Google Connecticut, is it going to come up or?
I don't know what will come up. Yeah, I don't know what will come up.
Well, my point in this is that is there an incentive other than what you're asking for today to actually have this type of marketing? And it sounded like there are other revenue streams available. I'm just trying to suss this out.
Yeah, I think from GDC America's point is if you were to do the same search in Texas or California right now, you would not have FanDuel because they're not able to provide their services in California, or DraftKings or anyone that's regulated anywhere else is not going to be able to market in California, or it doesn't make sense to market in California for online sports betting specifically. And that's where you'd see many different types of not only affiliates, but also different operators. If you think about how many operators are regulated in the United States across all states, it's maybe 35 to 50. Globally around the world of offshore operators, there's hundreds. And so the consideration set and the competition is much, it's more pervasive and there's just more of them. So as a result, there's more opportunities for those individual entities to market in states where no one's really paying attention, frankly. There's no one to regulate or police or pay attention to what's going on in California from an online gambling perspective because there's nothing to protect. It's just a black market that's existed for a long time for online gambling. So if we relate that to Massachusetts, as it stands right now, we are already investing in Massachusetts under the anticipation that the market is going to launch. And we have assets there and we have reporters that Michael mentioned in editorial there. So the question really is, if we're not able to generate revenue there of substance through a CPA model, then we would have no incentive to continue to invest with our media partners like Boston.com or through Google. And as a result, we would gradually leave the market and those offshore operators would re-enter the Massachusetts market as they've done for decades now.
And so Max, so what you're saying is too, there's a volume issue long term, right? So, and that's what, when Matt said earlier, target, it's not in a negative connotation. To get the information out, you have to have a long-term strategy. Because by the way, we looked up Connecticut and it also has the major players on there. But my guess is what you would say is eventually, or perhaps even now, the results are going to be different to the end user, right? To the person Googling than what they would be if there were investments there.
Precisely. And that's where you'd revert back to the mean of the good old days for offshore operators before passport was repealed and before states regulated online sports betting. You'd go back to that at some point when the P&L didn't match up for the affiliates and the operators to advertise their services.
I'd like to just pivot. Oh, Mr. Daly,
I was just going to comment on this, the Connecticut. So you'll see that, yes, we made heavy investments into Connecticut at the early stage, just like we're doing with Massachusetts, because you don't know before the regulations are released how it's going to turn out. So we start to position years in some cases before with the education side of our sites. Connecticut, yeah, there's a pullback now on all that spend there because we're not dedicating resources to writing new content in Connecticut, which means they fall down on the search and the Bovadas and other offlines will start, or offshores will start to emerge. And so that's what you'll see over time. It won't be Massachusetts day one, but yeah, we go for, this is a long-term business. And so, and that is actually also the way search works. It works on the history and the prominence and the amount of content put out. So as these three major affiliates and all the rest stop putting content out into Massachusetts because there's no viable deal to do so, then you'll see the others appear.
Commissioners, if you'd allow me, I'd like to pivot to the implications on responsible gaming. We have, as I mentioned, Brianne Dorschel here, and I know that Brianne has taken a look at this issue because Director Vanderlyn reached out to her. She understands that perhaps we are the intent of our original, the regulation that's in place, what the intention was, and I think we want to understand the implications of responsible gaming. So if you could turn to Brianne now. And
thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm noticing some faces. They're a little nervous, and maybe rightfully so. I've been a huge advocate for cleaning up some of the advertising and marketing that we've seen across the US. But I'm hoping to also pleasantly surprise many on this call by saying the affiliates from which you've heard from today have been many of the leaders and tremendous allies, both personally and professionally, from a consumer advocacy standpoint as it relates to responsible gambling. So I've made some notes, but I'm happy to answer some questions. I'd like to go to a point that Ms. Roberts made about that qualifications, right? She wants to know if the target really transfers to an appropriate customer. I think there's a huge amount of validity to that should be explored. Things that I am worried about, and I hear some of you and your colleagues, it's about that mass saturation and about vulnerable populations and particularly youth, right? I'm very much aware that when a market opens and we see the advertising, what are the implications on our youth, and normalizing this. The targeted marketing, that pull marketing they have spoken to, I think really comes with a significant value. We're ensuring that these are interested parties who are often of age, that aren't going to actually get any more promotions or target marketing unless they've been verified. So I very much appreciate that aspect of this type of marketing versus those socials, those paid socials, those paid billboards, the paid notifications. Those are the ones right now we're seeing other regulators act upon negligence. There aren't often RG messages. They're the ones I'm getting the calls that are in front of the 10-year-olds. And what do we do about this? When I've reviewed some of the regulatory fines and other questions from marketing, more often than not, we're not seeing it by these affiliate marketing agencies. They're coming from other types of advertising. Furthermore, I think there's really something to be said about having the heightened, they may not like this aspect, but the licensing requirement, right? Especially with the bigger licensing fees, more exhaustive background checks. And then of course, with it, the opportunity to put in more of those guardrails that could come with enforcement actions. Because while you're talking to some of the most ethical, forward-thinking leaders in the affiliate space, I am also thinking of the smaller ones who may not have those type of legal compliance departments that are so vital. And how do we ensure they also clean up their act or get out of the market? Because really, I feel as though from a regulatory consumer protection standpoint, this is about how do we create the safest, most sustainable entity, where really we emphasize this is about a privilege to hold a license. It's not a right. And we want only those that have the best interest of the jurisdiction and the consumers. I too am terrified about a scenario where we see far more of those paid socials and less of the content. I absorb a lot of the content that many of these affiliates put out. Actually, I'd like to give credit that one of them gave me so much coverage last year when I was lobbying in Kansas to get 2.5% of the revenue generated for problem gambling, that it actually helped me get lawmakers to push it forward. That's one of the affiliates here on this call. I'm going to call them out because I think they deserve the credit, and it was Better Collective. And those reporters were on with me after every single hearing saying, I saw you, I want to cover it. The neutrality that many of these affiliates do content-wise, it's a good thing for the ecosystem. And I hope maybe some of those nerves from the affiliates, you guys know I'm kind of the pragmatic. I like to be transparent. I don't think everything's great. I think that there are, rightfully so, some fines and some guardrails that need to be discussed here, but I am more worried about the saturation that could occur in one of these scenarios, Madam Chairwoman.
Brianne, can I just get a clarifier? And that was, and we do appreciate your transparency very much. And when you speak about what you're concerned around the social, we've heard the term push and pull, and that was in it's one of the letters. What you're talking about is what we're experiencing right now, that push, which all of the operators heard from us during their assessment. We understand that there is that push, but we want them to strike that right balance, which I think Mr. Efra mentioned, the balance between push, but also effective, responsible gaming messaging. But that's the language. When you say social, it's that push, right?
Yes. So a lot of the push I'm talking about are the paid socials, the things that are often finding, because they're done in a mass capacity, right? Those are the ones that I get the calls about from the parents, or, hey, my kid was watching the streaming and I see paid by someone. That's going to be the more push. That's not what we're talking about here. These are targeted sites with content that is often generic and about top of mind issues within the industry that will have ads and opportunities for engagement with operators that's partnered with. But again, what I love about it is that there's an emphasis within compliance. You're talking to some of the legal departments. You're not going to have that kind of knowledge base when you're talking to just general marketing, right? Like CNN does not have right now, I'm sorry to call them out, right? You're seeing those offshores, but they don't have someone who knows, is someone licensed, not the severity of pushing this out, what it means for the customers and the wider public. There's some real value for the knowledge base that exists within each of these entities and how it's communicated to the wider public. And there's also enforcement, I'm sorry, that can be, that could take place if you've regulated it and protected it. They understand the seriousness. They could lose their license.
I want to turn to my fellow commissioners for questions in the background, if people can think about this, and I think maybe Jamie, if she's available. We heard, and I'm sorry, we heard that perhaps smaller affiliates might require the rev share model more than the other CPA or other forms of compensation. And if so, that could explain the higher licensure process. I just would like to return to that question and understand the implications on small operators. But commissioners, what questions do we have? This is an important voice to have in responsible gaming. And we appreciate Brianne making time today. Commissioner O'Brien.
So yeah, it's nice to see you, Brianne. We've had some conversations on this topic, and a follow-up question I have for you, and then some of the other affiliates that are on here is, we're sort of narrowly talking about the language we have in our current Reg 256. And we've talked about how we might have missed the mark a little bit in terms of what we really wanted to curtail. And so my question for you and for the others on this call as well is, are there other jurisdictions that have had success in minimizing those paid socials, paid notifications? And if so, what's the mechanism that they've used? I don't like the look on Brianne's face, like maybe it's not working, but
we're working on it.
Okay, I mean, that's something that I think concerns everyone on this commission. And so if there's a body of knowledge on this roundtable, I'd love to hear it.
So I don't think that from my perspective, there's one jurisdiction right now that's really gotten it right. I think Ohio is a leader. We've seen recently New York is revisiting some of their requirements. Arizona, Colorado has recently taken some steps. I think it's not so much like, can you participate in the market or not? Although licensing seems to be really a forward trend, right? Because there can be some enforcement embedded into the market for bad actors, for that predatory oversaturation. I think as you and I have spoken to about this, it's quality and also amount, quantity and quality here, and both are really important. I think that this is a great way for us to take the best practices from multiple jurisdictions. But I have to say, the truth is having read over, obviously, the regulations we're discussing today, you have already done a nice job of incorporating things like font size for RG messaging, requiring RG messaging to be both in affiliate marketing and mass marketing, and a toll-free helpline. There are some best practices that you have embedded. I do feel as though this might have been one of those just misunderstandings about what's really going to achieve success in protecting the market versus additional steps. Now, I'd like to say Massachusetts has been a leader, and that you have this great research agenda that's embedded into your statute, right? And this is an area of concern within policy across the US and frankly around the world that really needs more examining about what's moving the needle forward as it relates to consumer protections. I would love to see Massachusetts use some of its opportunities and funding and research agenda to actually help the US better understand what steps we can be taking collectively, affiliates. You've got operators here, you've got outside consultants and consumer protections, right? How can we better use some of that to inform policies moving forward? They're not meant to be static, right? We need to evolve with the business. And so I'd be happy to walk you through some of the best practices jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but I think you guys have done a relatively good job of finding some of the best in class already. With this
I
one
think
exception.
Director Vanderlinden must have gotten to Brianne's ear, because this is an opportunity perhaps for our research agenda. So, and we welcome that, right, commissioners? Commissioners, questions for Brianne and others right now? Commissioner, I'm just going to check in with Commissioner Hill if he's available. Are you doing okay? Okay. If he wanted to speak, he would add in. Okay.
And one thing I would add, since you had mentioned, just from a gaming society perspective, it would be very, very difficult for us if that revenue stream was eliminated, when that's a majority of our income and how we're building our business, and the content that we're creating. Again, it's targeting an audience that no one else is really targeting. And we're trying to provide the education. So before they go to the books to make a bet, we want to give them the tools so that they're going to the books with the education and being empowered to be able to actually know what they're doing and be able to continue betting versus going and making irresponsible betting. So just because you had mentioned that, it would be a very big issue for us if that revenue stream was eliminated and we were only reliant on CPA.
I just want to say
that's really helpful. Brianne, yes.
You know, obviously, it's my job to worry as much about the revenue of, I'm going to come at it from informed decision making, which is a pillar of responsible gaming for the customers. We want them to know what they're engaging in, that it comes with a risk, and how to go about it appropriately and in an affordable way, right? That is what I love that affiliates offer is this commentary and just general knowledge that you don't get in a lot of other spaces. Marketing is often a quick hit. This looks really attractive, right? You should do it. They also do hold the industry accountable and report on, again, at least affiliates here that are represented, on just general things that don't always look favorable, right? But it was an affiliate who first broke the news when FanDuel removed the risk-free and moved to the no sweat bet. I remember getting that call and thinking, wow, this is coming from an industry publication. How cool is this? And so I think from an RG perspective, it's important to remember that they are trying to help customers navigate this appropriately and in an informed way. Now that comes with a responsibility, and I care about those bad actors of the small affiliates that don't care, and how do we manage that? But overall, there's some RG pillars to be said to that argument as well.
Commissioner Skinner, you haven't weighed in yet. What are you thinking about in terms of the licensure, the elevated licensure mechanism for addressing maybe the impact on smaller third-party affiliates?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning again, everyone. I think it is a serious consideration. I think it's one that this body should have at its forefront. I'm also grateful in hearing from Ms. Messler in the negative impact that and an elimination of the revenue sharing agreement will have on her operation. So I'm listening. I think that this has been a very informative discussion so far, and we have, I think, adequate information to take back when we do discuss this and make a determination as to which direction the commission will move in.
Thank you. Commissioner Maynard, any thoughts that you want to add right now?
Nothing further except to say this is extremely, like Commissioner Skinner just said, it's extremely helpful and extremely educational.
I guess I'd like to just hear from the operators as well. Is there anything that you want to add in now from your perspective? You did a fine job informing us as you applied for the privilege of a license here, and you did explain how your marketing efforts would be tailored so that those who are not eligible to wager would not be impacted. Is there anything that you want to add? We've heard from Mr. Fox, any of the other operators who are on today, and not to say, Mr. Fox, you can't weigh in, but others. Anything we're missing that we need to hear from the online operators? Good morning.
It's Sarah at MGM. Just to reiterate some of the comments of my peers from the operator side, that we feel, affiliate marketing does help to enable patron access to the Massachusetts gaming helpline numbers, as well as offer patron protection resources. We feel that it legitimizes the market. And we've spoken often about these gray market illegal operators and how an unassuming patron or someone who's never wagered on a platform in another jurisdiction may not fully be aware of who is a licensed operator and who is not. And affiliate marketing helps to legitimize those of us who have gone through this process with you all, are offering patrons an integrity, a platform rather that is operated with integrity, with consumer protection, patron protection provisions in place, customer service departments that help to solidify that. And so working hand in hand with affiliate marketing in our jurisdictions just helps to further that messaging, further that protection offered to patrons. And so, we would look for you to consider these amendments that we are all requesting. And I think that the fact that operators are aligned on this subject should also give you a sense of security and understanding of our position.
Thank you. Yes, go right ahead.
Madam Chair, Matt Scalp with DraftKings. Nothing to add. I think everything's already been said, but just wanted to confirm that DraftKings agrees with the comments made today by the other operators and the affiliates, and would like to thank the commission for holding this roundtable to give us the opportunity to explain how these things play out in the market. And we look forward to you considering the changes that we've requested.
Other voices?
Chair, actually, can I just ask one question of this group before we wrap up, which is, are there any
and,
other?
and we're not necessarily wrapping up. Could I, could I just follow up on that one point, Commissioner O'Brien? And because I'm not hearing from Penn, but in your written regulations, you do point out, and this is maybe to Breon's point, that our reg does, we added right at the top a reminder, and Commissioner O'Brien, I know that all of us really pushed for this was, you know, at the end of the day, there may be guardrails put up for the third party affiliate, but we hold all of our sports wager operators responsible for content and conduct of all and any and all advertising, marketing, or branding done on its behalf, and that will include the affiliated entity. And we rely on that. That's our first provision. And I thank Penn for concluding its statement and its written statements to remind us of that. Any guardrails that the third party has will perhaps be helpful if we end up going the route of a higher licensure. Ultimately, we do rely on all of the our licensees to help us make sure that the balance is struck. And as Breon mentioned, the quality and quantity of all of this is right for Massachusetts, and honestly, it's right for the entire country. So now, Commissioner O'Brien, I just wanted to point that out. Your next question?
So it's a question, are there any jurisdictions that have any sort of logo or imaging that confirms it's a licensed operator in the state in terms of, and does that help with messaging in terms of trying to steer people away from the illegal market?
That's a really good question, Eileen.
I can take that.
Yes,
The only jurisdiction we operate in currently that requires a logo indicating an entity as a licensed operator is Ontario at the moment, and that was only required for the first 6 months of operation post-launch. No other jurisdiction requires that, but most operators do have some type of either RG logo specific to their own advertising, or that some jurisdictions require an RG logo specific to their state to be included in marketing and advertising assets.
Okay, thank you.
As Commissioner O'Brien, our trade group is also working with the American Gaming Association on what we call a verified seal, which would be shared among only legal and regulated operators who are licensed in at least 2 states. And that would show that they've committed to responsible gaming and also responsible advertising. And this is something we've been working on for the past 3 years. We would then, if it was successfully launched, do a marketing campaign around it so that we can inform consumers to look for that to ensure that they're actually depositing and wagering with a legal site.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. So just want to make sure that we've gotten through. I'm going to turn to our legal department and to make sure that there are no questions that you have either from our legal department. I think we have Counsel Grossman, and we have Attorney Monahan, who's just come on video, and also we might hear from our licensure director or chief of licensure, Kara Bryan. So why don't we turn to Caitlin or to Todd? Todd first, I guess, and then Caitlin. Good morning.
Sure. Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and all who've joined. No, this has just been a very helpful discussion. So I think, at least from where I sit, we have enough information to sit with the commissioners and make any adjustments that are deemed necessary or otherwise. But no, I feel pretty good right now about where we stand. Caitlin, I don't know if you have anything otherwise.
I feel the same way. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Caitlin. Good morning, Kara.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I would just echo our council's position and say this has been an extremely helpful conversation, especially as we work through getting everybody licensed and registered, and making sure that we've got everybody that we need for launch and beyond.
Kara and her team have performed a lot of heroics during this process. We thank her. And of course, our legal team standing up all these regulations. And I know there's a lot of magic going on behind the scenes, much to Caitlin Monahan's excellent orchestration and organizational skills. So thank you. Anything, commissioners, that you have of legal, any questions you want to ask legal or licensure? Okay.
The only question I would have, Madam Chair, for licensing, and we can take it offline, is what, if anything, does it do to the workload for licensing if we were to implement and ratchet up licensing requirements?
So if we are going to be capturing a larger group than we had originally anticipated, if they are to be used before the March 10th deadline, we would probably need to anticipate a grace period, making sure that as long as they've submitted their application, things like that, just so that we have time to review the application and we're not running into, issues of people operating either without a license or having to hold off in order to do so.
Okay. Thanks.
So Commissioner O'Brien, on a follow-up on that, and this is something I want to turn to all of our stakeholders today. We've had a very robust discussion. It's going to help inform our decision making. Again, there's 5 of us, and all 5 will have a vote, so we don't know exactly which direction we're going to go in. We had moved to mark this up to next week. I'm sensing that that's probably not going to be helpful, that perhaps we should move it up to this week, commissioners. But yeah, I'm wondering, Commissioner O'Brien, you're kind of saying not necessarily.
I don't know if that if it's not going to change. I'm not so sure the week does much in terms of licensing, in terms of that. So I don't know if having the ability to have a less pressed conversation and putting it on for early next week might actually be the way to go, I think.
So right now it's marked up for Tuesday. So I'm hearing of the solution from Chief O'Brien's perspective. Now from our guests, if we were to make our decision next Tuesday, how does that impact? I need to understand the practical impacts for you. Hearing what you just heard from legal and licensing.
I'll start if that's okay, Madam Chairwoman. We have, from our side, it is a game of musical chairs. One, getting the affiliates and the operators on the same page contractually of what they can and can't do. So from our perspective, as soon as the operators know what they're permitted to do on what marketing dollars they're able to spend with what type of marketer, in this case, affiliate marketers, if they know they're going to be able to launch and use affiliates on launch day, March 10th, the sooner the better, because we need to, one, paper all the deals and orchestrate internally to make sure that when a consumer does go through Google, that they actually go to the place that they intend to, whether it's MGM or Wynn or otherwise. So from the affiliate side, it's predicated upon when the operators firmly know they will be able to use affiliates. And given that we're 12, 13 days away from the market launch, the sooner would be better, just in an effort to alleviate any fire drills for operators and consumers and affiliates and the whole ecosystem.
If I may, Madam Chairwoman, I'd only just want to add to what Max said, is the other side would be also then understanding as soon as possible next week what other forms and the like we would need to submit for the licensing process, which understanding it might be even a temporary if it was you've submitted this much, but that is next Friday, as I've said. So it's this We will move heaven and earth to do what is required by the state, but time will be the enemy, I think.
Yeah, I just want to agree with both Max and Michael that time is of the essence here, and that we'll move mountains to get done whatever we need to get done. But the sooner that we have certainty, I think it does assist with sort of preparing for a successful launch.
Madam Chair, I echo the sentiments of my peers, but as well want to just address the actual content element of this as well, to ensure that our affiliate partners have all the appropriate RG disclaimers and messaging, and that at times when we, prior to launch, we do assist them in doing reviews and audits of their content and materials. And so the more time we have in order to do so, the more we can adequately assure that the messaging is appropriate and correct for patron protection and responsible gaming provisions.
Commissioners, I think we have our 2 meetings, and I'm speaking, this is inside baseball, but you'll all have to just listen to me. We have our 2 commission meetings that are, I know we are required to act by Wednesday, the end of those meetings. I know that there seems to be a little bit of an end time, which I can explore on Wednesday to see if it could be expanded. I was worried we might not have sufficient time to discuss this, to add it to Tuesday or Wednesday's agenda. I know on Thursday mornings there's some interest in an event. We do have Thursday afternoon that might be available. Commissioners, what if we explore either tacking it on to Wednesday and then preserve Thursday afternoon as well, in case we can't get to it, given the work that we have that firm deadline. If I can make that work, Councilor Grossman, it would be, and I have to thank Crystal, she helped me at the end of the day on Friday to move it to Tuesday. Now I'm rethinking my decision. We could amend Wednesday, Todd, to add it in. We're being very transparent about the moving target here, so I don't think we'll be criticized, but we could amend, go back, include it for Wednesday. If we can't get to Wednesday, mark up a meeting on Thursday afternoon just on the single subject. And that would be the latest time that we would be addressing the change. Does that work for our legal team? And
yeah, I think that's workable. If we do this shortly after we end this discussion, we'll be within 7 hours instead of 48. So I think we're pretty close.
Right, for Wednesday in the
for
afternoon.
Wednesday, that's right.
Yeah, and Wednesday in the afternoon, it would be at the end of the afternoon session. So, and then we'll do a Thursday as a precautionary measure in the event we can't get to it in a fulsome way on Wednesday. Commissioners, does that work for you if we do a Thursday early afternoon? I'm seeing nodding. Commissioner Skinner, are you all right with that? Commissioner Jordan, Commissioner Maynard, are you all right with that?
That works for me.
Okay, and Commissioner Hill, I think he'll be all set as well.
I'll be all set.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Commissioner Hill. How's that feeling to the folks who are on this, who have been so generous with their time today?
Yeah, that sounds great, Madam Chair. I think the one element of that should also be noted is that the anticipation for March 10th will grow over the next couple of days and especially through the weekend. And consumers will start searching and making queries for what's available, what's not. So it sounds like this week would be very helpful for us because there is a function of consumers and patrons registering for an account before the market opens. And these pre-registration times are usually the leading 8 to 10 days before the market opens. So that would be toward the end of this week when we start to see those volumes of search queries start to ratchet up. And we'd want to make sure that we capture those patrons and consumers effectively.
Thank you. So maybe legal, though it might be an additional lift, if you could come up with options for the various scenarios that you would imagine, given today's discussion, that we might be entertaining. Commissioners, does that sound good, or does that make sense in terms of potential, obviously status quo, and then potential options for regulatory changes? Commissioner O'Brien, you're looking. Do you want to add some further directive?
Yeah, so you've got those, and then whether there's a broader discussion in terms of if rev share is going to survive in any sense, or get revived, I should say, whether we want to have any conversation about either capping or, you know, doing some other controls on that, as opposed to just a blanket, you know, opening the door to rev share. That's still an open question in my mind.
Maybe we should just get some input from folks then. When you say a cap, want to elaborate, and then we'll see what our visitors have to say.
Yeah, I mean, whether there's either a monetary cap or whether there's triggering for when they have to then come up, whether there are reviews in terms of, I was intrigued by the idea of the person had to be qualified when you were talking about some of your reviews on people too. And I appreciate now the know your customer part of it. I just don't want it to morph into you qualifying because they're betting a lot. That's the part I'd like to avoid. So that's the part of rev share that concerns me, is to not become predatory, because part of the rev share is you're driving up the vulnerable person or the frequent flyer. So is there a way for us to sort of mitigate risk in the regulation?
The activity piece. So if we were to have any kind of parameters on that, have you seen that in what's workable? And commissioners chime in if you want to frame that better than me. Any input, Max? Are you leaning in on that?
Yeah, I think I would defer to the operators in some sense, because generally affiliates don't have as much consumer information as the operators, because they go through all the KYC and knowing their player and identifying them and have direct contact with those players on an ongoing basis. So I would defer to one of the operators on this call. But anecdotally, we've seen it work in both fashions in each market. It's purely dependent on what the appetite is for the commission and the operators to be able to facilitate that. But all in all, would defer to an operator, given that they have the most data on these patrons.
Anyone want to weigh in? And Breon, you can. We'll turn to you at the end.
Can I ask, are there jurisdictions that do in fact have some sort of controls and regulations on that?
On the capping of the amount.
Right.
None that I know of.
None that you know of?
Not in the US, no.
How about outside the US?
I'm hearing none, and Breon is kind of on.
I'm trying to think if
Go
there's
ahead.
caps in the UK. I don't think so. There's been some changes in the affiliate marketing realm over there, but if I may, I agree with Max from an operator standpoint, and there's more data there. Very recent changes within regulations or best practices in New Jersey and forthcoming Colorado, April 1st. Operators are now expected as part of licensure to have behavioral algorithms deployed within their systems to track problematic behaviors. That is not a part of the affiliate revenue, right? I'm kind of picking here. There are different things, but if you were interested in linking the two, that you don't want, and I share similar concerns, we don't want to be reinforcing predatory overspending as a way to generate money here, right? This is all balance, affordability, then maybe considering that aspect of the regulations as part of your discussion around caps. I'd be happy to share with you, New Jersey and Colorado are going about this differently. Colorado is leaving the operators to choose how they examine and define problematic behaviors in the interventions. New Jersey has specifically delineated what's to be tracked and what's to happen at each intervention. Happy to have discussions with you at another time to talk about the differences and also what I'm seeing in other jurisdictions by way of tracking problematic play.
if I may, Madam Chairman, the only thing I'll add to that is, yes, the affiliate often doesn't actually know the player that is being shared on the revenue share. In order for player protections and individual rights, we're often tokenized, meaning we have a number of the player, and this is who's been delivered on revenue share, but the operator knows that player and we do not at that point. And that's very important in certain European countries, but we do the same thing pretty much in most of our businesses. So that level, so we can do general awareness, but it's very difficult for us to do anything specific because that has been asked not for us to know those specifics.
Right.
Okay. Any further questions, comments as you think about our next discussion, commissioners? That was a good one for Commissioner O'Brien to get some input on. Again, what we want to avoid is top of mind for us is the implications for responsible gaming. And that's how we probably came to this right to begin with. It's quite obvious. And so we want to make sure that we don't inadvertently make another change without the other information. The good news for all of us is that regulations continue to evolve, just as Brianna explained, with New Jersey and Colorado for the best interests of the patrons and the regulated businesses. Any further questions? All right. Commissioners, would you like, I'll turn to Commissioner O'Brien. Any closing comments you wish to make?
No, other than this has been very helpful for me. I was sort of quite vocal about wanting to address your roles in advertising and in the saturation and protecting against the saturation. So getting educated on how this works and making sure we're doing that in the best way possible is incredibly helpful. And so I thank you for your submissions. I thank you for your time today because it's been very helpful for me.
Commissioner Hill, are you able to chime in right now?
I am, and I just want to say thank you. And it was very, very informative. And I, like Commissioner O'Brien, I wanted to see how this really worked, and I think this allowed us to do that. So thanks everybody for being here, and I look forward to the next step.
Thank you. Commissioner Skinner?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Just echoing my fellow commissioners in extending the thanks to each of our participants today. Extremely insightful discussion. I want to give a particular thank you to Brianne for her contributions today. I thought they were extremely valuable. You and I haven't had the opportunity to chat one-on-one, but I'm looking forward to the opportunity to do so. So
much. I look forward to that as well.
Very nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Maynard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will echo my fellow commissioners and say that part of what we do here is try to strike a balance, and we're always reevaluating where we are on that spectrum of striking that balance. I think I asked a really tough question, and I appreciated the answer, which was, this does matter, even if there are places where you're engaging right now that the regulations aren't as friendly as others, that it still doesn't solve the problem. And so that was really what I was looking for, was where's the problem, where's the solve? And I appreciated everyone being very clear with me on both of those points. So I appreciate it. Look forward to engaging with you in the future. And thank you for the information.
And I just want to extend my gratitude. The nuances of this issue came to my attention a week ago, Friday. So not this past Friday, but the Friday before. And as we dug into it, we learned so much from all of you. And the fact that you were able to come today really with few options in terms of timing, and I think no options. It was Monday was offered and you all accepted. I'm grateful for that because our schedule is tight, and this was such an important issue. And just very, very pleased to hear from so many different perspectives. So we are very grateful for that. And I'm grateful to our team for listening, and my fellow commissioners. I know that we all are united on wanting to make sure that we hear from all stakeholders as we move forward in this new industry here in Massachusetts, and pretty new across the country. So thank you. And Brianne, again, I echo my fellow commissioners' gratitude toward yours. It's an important voice to have. And we thank you for joining on spur of the moment. All right, anyone need any further clarification that we might miss as we move forward? And again, for any outside stakeholders who have not been participating today, please feel free to submit anything in writing. We want to make sure we haven't missed anything as we move forward, and we'll work on getting that marked up for Wednesday and Thursday. So thank you, everyone. Okay.
Thank you.
And because this is a public meeting, we have the formality of an adjournment. My thanks again, thanks to the public for your interest, and thank you to the team. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Okay. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Maynard.
Aye.
And I vote yes. Have an excellent day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.